Hey guys, something that we are excited to tell you about is a company that is taking wine to the next level. If you've been at a restaurant or grocery store trying to pick out a bottle of wine but had no idea where to start, like me, or you're just looking for a unique event for your friends, family, or coworkers, In Good Taste is a new type of winery that can help you do both. Their mini wine bottle tasting flights help people with varying degrees of wine knowledge learn more about wine. In Good Taste provides tasting flights and complimentary virtual tasting over Zoom. The tastings create a safe space for novices and pros to ask questions about the wine, the regions, food pairings, etc. Unlike the traditional lecturing at most wineries, In Good Taste provides a fun event with trivia and quirky food pairings like which wine pairs best with Crunchwrap Supremes. Each mini bottle is one glass of wine, so you're getting 2 full bottles of wine, but in a variety for just $65. This lets you learn more while committing to less.
Training is a part of who I am. So when I took that out of that 6 months, I literally didn't know who I was anymore. I lost who I thought I was. I definitely wasn't healthy, having chocolate for breakfast and just like being in a slump and staying up late at night and sleeping in. And sometimes even, I'm ashamed to admit it, but I would even miss my lectures and stuff, I just wasn't motivated. And I definitely felt like I hit rock bottom.
And welcome to the Darren Woodson Show. So for those of you that have listened to us, we've had some really cool guests and some really elite athletes. I think today, our guest tops all of them.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely you, for sure.
Oh, shit. I'm not even going to say, read my name in that sentence. Yeah.
But if you've listened back, we've had 2 of the top male CrossFitters.
I think we're a CrossFit podcast now.
I think so. I think we should just rebrand altogether. But both of them would probably say that our guest today is by far the better athlete of all of them.
Yes.
So we are really, really excited to have Tia-Clair Toomey with us straight from Nashville. And Tia, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. That introduction, that's a lot to live up to.
He practiced all night. He didn't sleep last night. He was worried.
You guys, I'm so sweaty right now.
You're past the first part.
Okay. All right. So Tia, we're going to get into, you got a lot going on right now, obviously training for the CrossFit Games this year, it's been a weird year for CrossFit. But I mean, you're adding
a weird 3 years.
Yeah. That's a good point. But you've also added another element to it that we'll get into a transition and another challenge that you're taking on. But in the show, we want to go back and we want to understand where Tia came from. Obviously, you're not from Alabama. For those of you that have heard her accent, she's not from there. I think she's from West Virginia, right? Yeah. Is that a West Virginia accent?
Yeah, totally. Same.
But take us back, being born in Australia and what that dynamic was like, and ultimately we'll get to where we're at today, and the greatness that you bring.
I hope you guys are comfortable because this is a long story, but basically, my mom and dad brought my sisters and I up on a sugarcane farm back in Australia in a state called Queensland. And I like to think that I literally was grown up on hard work. When I look back on my journey and how I think it has helped me along my I guess my professional sporting career, I've definitely learned a lot and had like a really great foundation. Whether I knew that when I very first started, it's just something that I've appreciated along the journey essentially. And when I was growing up, I was very, very sporty, but never did I ever think that I was going to be going to the Olympics for weightlifting or, being a CrossFit athlete or even a bobsled athlete for that matter. At the time, I was very much into my swimming, into my track and field, into my cross country. And I just knew that I wanted to do something with health and fitness or, be be a sportswoman, essentially, that's going to represent my country in something. But, you know, as we all know, that's not necessarily the easiest job. And, you know, you have to be really prepared and committed to that kind of goal. So, yeah. I have to like pinch myself.
So was it, what were the family dynamics? Mom and dad together, brothers and sisters? Did you come from a big family?
Yeah, I would say that I've come from a big family, but my direct family, I have a mom and dad, and then I have two younger sisters that are significantly younger than I am. They're about 7 and 10 years younger than me. So I've definitely grown up, you know, more of a single child, but then when they came into our lives, more of like a parent figure in that respect, even though my mom and dad were very much involved. I definitely look at them not just as siblings, but as, you know, my own. Essentially they're my motivation when it comes to a lot of the hard work that I do, and someone, I guess I want them to look at me and see my journey and know that, hey, if I'm doing it, then they can too. Absolutely. No matter what chosen field they want to go into.
So growing up on a farm, and were you out working with your parents? What was that kind of the daily, like, so, you know, before you got into organized sports, what was kind of the daily chores and what was all that like?
Well, I like to think that I was there working. Mom and dad would probably have a different answer to that one. But, you know, actually just before, you know, I went through school, I went into college and tried to become a nurse and exercise and movement science degree. But, you know, like, as much as I really enjoyed learning and developing my knowledge and education in that department, there was just something that wasn't fulfilling. And it was actually when I literally left, like, just deferred uni for a little bit, that I realized that, okay, you know, like, I'm kind of hitting rock bottom here. I'm not really happy, and that something has to change. At the time, my parents had actually moved from the property because the mill shut down. So, you know, there was a little bit of moving where my mum and dad had to go and work in the mines to actually help, you know, fund the farm essentially, while my grandparents were still living there.
Now, Tia, how old were you? I'm sorry to interrupt, but how old were you at this time?
So when that happened, it was actually in 2006. So I was in grade 8 when that happened.
Wow.
So, you know, something that, like, I was growing up, I was very happy as a kid, you know, growing up on the farm, riding motorbikes, having friends over. Like, my place was the place to be when it came to the weekends. And for that to pretty much be turned upside down in my eyes, and essentially in my parents, because, you know, they were trying to, you know, make a dream living happen while actually, you know, helping the family and everything, but they financially couldn't do that and survive. So we literally had to change up our lives and move from one end of the country to the other, to a completely different lifestyle, and, you know, basically make do with what my mum and dad had, just so that we could keep the farm and stuff. And so, as you know, I went through school and I went into college. I was always very, very sporty. So I participated in a variety of sports. So netball, I don't know if you guys actually know what netball is.
No, we don't.
Did you say nipple?
Netball. You'll have to totally Google it.
Okay.
It's a combination of like basketball and handball.
Okay.
It's very popular with the Commonwealth countries. But, you know, like football, tennis, you know, rugby for that matter, this thing called nippers, swimming, track, cross country. And when it came to the time of actually going to college, which we call university, I decided to focus on my studies rather than actually, you know, follow my passion for sports, just because I was like, you know, the proper way to do it is, you know, get an education, get a qualification and do it that way. But that's when I don't know if it's, I don't really like to say that I was depressed, purely because, you know, that was just like, I just don't want to obviously admit that, but there was definitely a period there in my life where I was like, I'm not happy, and I'm not doing what I love.
Yeah. So let's go back. Let's go back on that, because I want to understand like the perspective of growing up in Australia. You know, as it pertains in the U.S., it's, you know, for most men, it's, you know, if you're an athlete, you go from one step to the next. And if you want to play football or basketball, your dream is to go from high school to college to pro. In Australia, for a young lady, what's that step like? Is it a dream of going from, you know, high school to play one sport to college, or what's that like?
So it is very different in comparison to the US and Australia, purely because, you know, so for example, I'll take track and field. So throughout school, so when I speak school, I'm talking from, you know, grade 1 to grade 12, right, which is like our, I'm not quite sure exactly what you guys call it, but it's essentially the period before college or university, if you will. And there are like these steps. So, you know, you'll compete at your school, then you'll go into your regionals, and then you go into your state championships, and then you'll go into your national championships, which you compete against everyone in your country. And during that school period of those 12 years, that's as high as you can go, because when you're that young, you don't qualify anything further. Okay. Right. So it's, once you leave school after those 12 years, then you have the ability to actually, you know, qualify and represent the country. Now, in order to do that, though, it's not like, you know, you get selected on a team or anything. You have to go through the trials, and you actually have to, you know, perform the regulated criteria that, you know, say Athletics Australia provide, and then you'll go on the World Championships tours and everything like that. And, you know, not to bash Australia in any means, it's just the opportunities that the US have provided for their athletes is definitely a lot more than Australia. Mm-hmm. Hence why I'm living in the States. Right. I love my country, and I love, you know, being there, and I've had like the best upbringing in my eyes. However, you know, I was the fittest woman on earth twice in a row, and I wasn't getting paid purely because of the lack of opportunities that were in Australia compared to the US. So my husband and coach, Shane Orr, who we've been together for almost like 13 years now. And, you know, we made that decision that, hey, like if we want to make this an actual career and, you know, really take advantage of our brand and where we are in our lives, we need to move to the US. And that's just it, you know, like that's just the reality of the situation. Like, I don't mean this as in, you know, like, oh, Australia have no opportunities, blah, 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 blah. It's just there's just different. We're kind of isolated down there, and there's the reality to that.
So from a professional sports standpoint, you go to university and you ran track in university, correct?
So I actually stopped doing all athletics as soon as I graduated grade 12. I went as far as I could, which was like the top level of nationals representing my state. And then when it came to university, my mom actually decided, hey, look, if you prioritize your studies and everything, I will help you pay for that. And, you know, but I need you to make sure that you're actually, you know, putting in the effort there. So I actually ended up saying no to all my sports and just trying to take the opportunity that my mom was going to help me fund my college. And, you know, I never wanted to take advantage of that opportunity. And I only lasted 6 months because I realized, like, man, I'm literally just not happy here. And
I want to get back to that, right? Because we talk a lot about passion and pursuing that and aligning what you're doing with that passion. But so another question is, are there scholarships available for athletes at university? So, I mean, were those opportunities there for you? And you said, I've got to bypass that because I really just, you know, I need to focus on education. What?
Yeah, there are definitely scholarships. So those scholarships, though, are more for, say, you can get scholarships if you live in the city and say, you're that like at the top of your craft, and you get selected into a particular school. And then you also can get scholarships for being rural. So there's a lot of athletes that may be living on a property that are, getting a scholarship and helping with that funding in that respect. For me personally, it just wasn't an option for me to actually go and pursue that. I just was like, nope, I'm just going to stop all my sports so that I can solely focus on my competition. And essentially, not that I, didn't want handouts or anything like that. It's just that, I just didn't want to rely on anyone else. Obviously, I had my mum and dad there to help me along the way, but I even didn't want to take their money as well. I'm someone that, my husband, Shane, and I have just done it all on our own since day one. And I never wanted to take handouts, if that makes sense. I just wanted to do it myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're known today as, you have an insane work ethic. Obviously, to get to where you are and to accomplish what you have, it doesn't just happen by accident. You've got to work extremely hard. I'm curious, though, as a child, what was your relationship with work ethic, and what did that look like as a kid growing up?
Well, I think that when I was growing up, mum and dad, they always said that if there's something that you want to go out and achieve, no one's going to do it for you. And you have to be the one that actually goes out and puts in the work to get it done. And I think that that's probably why it never, crossed my mind to actually, try and get like specific handouts or, sponsorships or like scholarships or anything like that, because at the end of the day, like if I want to get something done, I'm the only one that's going to make it happen, essentially.
Yeah.
Can that mentality, do you think, as you're a little bit older now, can that mentality be detrimental, do you think, at any point?
I think it can be, if you have this ego or this stigma that you're the only one that can help you get to your goal. I think it definitely can cut you at your knees. The thing that I've learned, though, is I think it's important also to not rely on people, because at the end, like, I think you can just dissect it any which way here. There's been situations where, hang on, let me try and explain it this way. I don't want to come across here like I'm just, never like get anything. So we might want to cut that or
I love this conversation because you're going down a line where I think I come from in sort of the same way as if you want it, you go fucking get it. And there are no handouts, excuse my language, but there are no handouts. You got to take what you take.
Language is you can say language. What are you talking about?
I think with this situation, so, for example, I'm an individual athlete. I always have been. I've definitely participated in sports, like team sports, and I've had a lot of fun with them. But for me personally, I find it very hard to expect or rely on other people to help me get to where I am. That said, though, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for my team. Right. And my team is, the support from my family, the support from my husband and coach. If it wasn't for him, who we literally, started this whole CrossFit journey together, and he literally was teaching himself, how to help me with rope climbs on YouTube by watching Jason Khalipa, So we've learned and evolved along the years to make it happen. And then, there's been people that have come into my life throughout the journey that have definitely had a large influence on my performance. And, if it wasn't for them and their support, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so even though I am an individual athlete, I have a team around me, right?
Right.
But when I think about the journey and I think about all the experiences I've had, you never want to rely on other people to get you where you want to go. Because if you rely on those people and they don't stand up to your expectations, you can't go and blame them, because in their eyes, they did their absolute best. But in your eyes, they're actually not doing anywhere near the job that you expected them to do.
Right.
Yep.
And it falls back on you, because, you know, you're the person that actually allowed them and relied on them to try and help you get to where you are.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just doesn't work.
That is so real. That is so
you
real.
couldn't have described that better.
You couldn't have, because in what you just said, you're basically saying, you know, how a lot of people think that have gotten to your level is, you know, people are made to let you down. People are never going to meet your expectation, because if you know, have to rely on someone to lift you up, or it's got to start with self. It's got to burn within. Because I used to have a friend who used to always say, man, people are there to, you know, people will never meet the expectations of what you expect. They'll never meet those expectations, because at some point they're not perfect. They're going to let you down. You got to look at self and where you burn. My question to you is, when did the fire start, or how were you introduced to CrossFit?
Well, and I don't mean to throw that out. I would like to go back to that 6 months that you were in university. I'm sorry, and because I think this is that sounds like it was a pivotal point in your journey, because you realize, okay, I took this path of what I'm supposed to do. There's so many people that do what they're supposed to do: go to school, get a job, whatever it is. We just talked about this, and you went through that, and you know. I appreciate what you're saying. It's like, I don't want to admit that it's depression, but just a really hard time, right? It's a really hard season. I went through the same thing, and you're talking through this, and I'm like, I kind of relate, because when I finished college ball, I went to Canada, and then I got cut from Canada, and I'm thinking, okay, my journey's over. So I'm working an insurance job. I'm working at a Christmas shop. I'm doing all these things, and literally, it was depression, because it's like, is this athletic, physical journey that I felt like I should be on, is that really, truly over? And I'm doing something because I have to do it, right? I've got to get a paycheck, or I've got to get the education, or whatever it is. So I can relate to that. So talk to us kind of that 6 months, and specifically the end, when you finally said, no, this isn't for me, right? I need to pursue something that I truly am passionate about and that motivates me to be the best person that I can be.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, I worked so hard through school. So when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about grade 12 in high school. And I worked so hard because I needed to get a particular OP to get selected into the right university that I wanted to go. And I actually felt burnt out, because I would study during lunch hours. I would go above and beyond because of how passionate I was for sport. You know, my studies weren't as strong. And so I needed to try extra hard and make sure that I was putting my mum and dad's money to good use, and making sure that I was, you know, getting the right VAs, getting the A pluses, and making sure I was hitting the mark in terms of my studies as well. And so when it came to university, you know, this was, and I don't blame my mum and dad at all for this. It was just what they thought was the best way to do it. But when they said, you know, you need to go to university, get an education, get a qualification, I was like, okay, this is what I have to do. And through that period, I was like, man, I can't let them down. Like, I literally live to just make my parents proud, to make my sisters proud. And I knew I was upsetting them. Like, they will never admit that, but I deep down knew I was letting them down. And so it was upsetting me more. And knowing that I wasn't putting my best foot forward, knowing that I wasn't putting in the work, and here I am, you know, potentially wasting my mum and dad's money. You know, I'm not the person that they brought me up to be as well. So I'm disappointed in my work ethic in that respect as well through those 6 months. And it just wasn't working. And I knew something needed to change. And the thing that was missing was me training. And I've trained every day of my life. You know, I remember, you know, Dad and I, we had this conversation back in like primary school, and I was like, Dad, I want to make and represent Queensland, like our state, at nationals. And Dad's like, okay, well, we're going to have to work hard, and you're the one that's going to have to get up early in the morning, and you're going to have to do training sessions in the afternoon. And when your friends ask you to go over for sleepovers, you're going to have to say no, because you're going to have to do the training. And I was like, yep, I'm 100% committed, because this is what I want to do.
See, that's crazy, because that's so unique to me, is someone in primary school that's like, no. I'm not worried about friends. I'm worried about that ultimate goal that I'm going to work for 3, 4, 5, 6 years to get to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I never did that, I don't think I could be doing what I'm doing today. We literally, like, when I said to Dad, I'm 100% committed, it was waking up 5 a.m. in the morning, going to the pool every single morning. That time, like, and this is the thing, like, a lot of people will probably be like, whoa, like, what's wrong with her parents? You know, they're just like, you know, grinding her when she's so young. It was all on me. Like, I wanted to do this. And I was the one getting my dad up and being like, Dad, we got to go training. He was just physically there, either taking me there or he was, you know, doing it with me. And so since, like, I mean, I don't even remember when I very first started. This was like such a long time ago. It's just training is a part of who I am. So when I took that out of that 6 months, I literally didn't know who I was anymore. I lost who I thought I was. I definitely wasn't healthy, you know, having chocolate for breakfast and just like being in a slump and, you know, staying up late at night and sleeping in, and sometimes even, I'm ashamed to admit it, but I would even miss my lectures and stuff. You know, I just wasn't motivated, and I definitely felt like I hit rock bottom.
Yeah, you lost your identity. Yeah, you lost your identity. You went through that process, and a lot of us we've all gone through it as far as playing in the NFL. Is, you know, you played it for so long. This is what you did. You worked out. You trained. You got ready, and then when it's over with, the transition happens, and you lose who you are.
But you said this is what I did. It's so much more. We turned it into so much more than that. You said it a second ago, Tia. It was who I was. Yeah. And that's such an interesting mentality to tap into, that this is who I am. And this is why I don't feel good anymore, because who I am not being who I was designed to be for that 6 month period. And that's amazing. Yeah,
well, I mean, it was Shane, my boyfriend. He was like, "Hey, look, you know, we need to change this. Like, this is just not working." And he was playing rugby at the time, and he went, like, in his preseason. The team went to this like CrossFit gym, and at that time we had no idea what CrossFit was. And he came home that night and he was like, "Hey, I think you need to like try this CrossFit thing out." And I was like, yeah, like whatever. No worries. I'll come and join in next time. And so I went there and I loved it. I was like, oh shit, like what is this? Like getting upside down, doing handstand push-ups and stuff. I was like, these guys are on another freaking level, but whatever, like I'll join in. And the coach told me I couldn't do it. And I was like,
hold my beer. Hold my beer.
It was like one of those moments. I was like, who the fuck do you think you are? Excuse the French. But I was just like, dude, like back off. Yeah. So I actually I didn't go back for 2 months, because I was like, that coach is a douchebag. Right. And like, I don't want to be like a part of that. But like, I really enjoyed it. So it was the owner of the gym. We met in like a shopping center a couple of times, and he'd always ask me like, "Hey, like, when are you coming back to the gym? Like, you did really well. Like it'd be great to have you a part of the community." And I was like, yeah. Third time lucky. I was like, damn, this is getting freaking awkward. Like, I just need to get back in there, you know? So I got back in there. I signed up for a month because I used up my free trial the first time, and I was hooked. But it didn't, like, I didn't get hooked from like week one. I actually, because it was expensive, I was like, okay, I'm getting my freaking money's worth, so I'm going to go morning and night. Yeah. And by the end of it, I was like, holy shit, like, I don't want to stop this. To the point where that damn coach that I didn't like, he told me that I was doing too much. And I was like, you just like, get out of here.
Yeah. You're 0 for 2, bro. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. Get out of here.
So what was it? What was it about CrossFit that you loved?
what I loved was the fact that every single day you went into the gym, you could be competitive with yourself, and there was always a challenge. There was always something that you needed to constantly work on so that you could get that much better. And that constant variety, that constant, push within yourself was always there. It was always satisfying. And it was always, some days I would walk away from the gym, I'm like, far out, like, man, I could have gotten that. And then I'd go back the next day just super fired up to give it another go. And I don't know if these guys have like picked up on this or anything, but I'm very impatient and I also get bored very quickly. So CrossFit was awesome for me because like I'm just like going at it 100 miles an hour, but I'm also staying stimulated with all the different variety of movements that it provides.
So sorry, just so we can catch our bearings again. So you did the 6 months of regular school, you leave, your boyfriend Shane says, hey, let's start trying CrossFit. What year are we talking about here? So this was in the start of 2013, like the CrossFit Open, which happens in February. That was in 2013. And I remember the gym was like, hey, we need like people to sign up so that we can, get as many people and win like something from CrossFit. And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now, but yeah, sure. And like, it was like 13.1 and now teaching me like 2 minutes before the actual workout, like how to snatch. I was like, what is a snatch? Like I obviously watched the Olympics, growing up as a little girl, you're like, I want to be an Olympian, but like, I'd only appreciated like weightlifting from afar, watching it through the Olympics. Never did I think that I would actually attempt doing weightlifting one day. So that was like my first time actually experiencing like weightlifting and, going from like doing burpees and I always thought that these CrossFitters like cheated their movements because they're always doing like snake burpees and like butterfly pull-ups and stuff. I was like, they're not real reps. Like you got to strip that shit. Yeah. So I think I know the answer, but what's your relationship like when you sucked at first? And you were probably pretty good just because you're a good athlete, but when you weren't
not good.
Okay, so let's pull on that a little bit. What is your typical reaction to things you're not great at?
Great, like good, like this is it. Like this is like I'm only going to get better from here, right? I love the process of things. Funny enough, as much as I have trained my whole life, I don't like training. I love the process though that's behind training, and I love competing. Like competing is what I do it for. So, when I'm out on that floor and I'm like just absolutely going ham, that is why I train so hard, because that adrenaline rush, the feeling like I'm on another level.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to explain because, there's a flow state that I feel that I honestly have superpowers when I go out competing and representing everyone that's, behind me. And that is why I train, just so that I can feel that and have that just like, I mean, it's just like, it gets you giddy,
Yeah.
So you're willing to do things you don't really like in the moment for an ultimate goal that you just can't have enough of.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's
okay, so let's go back to like the start of competition. So you're only like a few months into going to classes, right? Before your gym enters into a competition. Was it a regional or what was it?
So it's like the online open.
Okay.
So it's actually what just finished like last week.
Which,
by the way,
congratulations.
You just won that, right?
On winning that?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So humble over there.
Yeah.
But, okay, so you get into the competition, and did that, I mean, the answer you've already really given, but that competition really sparked it like, oh, wait, was that a light bulb moment for you? Like, I could do this. Like, this could be a thing.
Well, not really. It was actually more of like, okay, I could utilize this to like get my fitness back to where it needs to be so I could do my cross country and my athletics. So I was like, this is a really great stimulus. Like I've been a big believer from day one, and I got this from my dad, that just because you're a track athlete or just because, you do a specific sport doesn't mean that training is only going to benefit you and your sport. So I used to do a lot of swimming to help my fitness for my running, and it was low impact, so it helped with my joints, and it allowed me to like really focus on, expanding my lungs so that I had larger lungs when it came to running and stuff like that. So I just had that mentality going into CrossFit, thinking, okay, I'm going to build some strength and power. CrossFit is a big believer in developing power, speed, agility, balance, everything like that. So this is only going to benefit my running. So I'll do this and I'll pick back up my running. And before I knew it, I was feeling way better. I was following my passion of actually doing my running. And, I was starting to get a bit of a skip in my step. And, like Shane, he definitely would go as well, like for his training, for his football and everything like that. And, it just became like this fun thing that we really enjoyed that was different to our typical, running around circles doesn't always, keep you stimulated. So having this CrossFit was a really great break and a really great way to really feel that love for training again. And this is though, like I didn't also at that time, I really didn't know about the CrossFit Games or regionals or anything like that. I think they spoke about it, but in the gym itself, it's just a tiny little community. They did speak about having their own like comp team. So basically they would just go to local competitions and they would actually compete in teams and stuff. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Like I'm going to be on that comp team and they're going to ask me. This is a little bit of an ego thing too. I refused to ask them to be a part of the team. They had to ask me.
That's right.
So
that's right. You come to me.
I was always like, I'm going to train the house down and show them like how much I'm, developing that they're going to want to have me. So
just strategically doing hand cleans next to them and squats next to them every time. Hey, you got 2 plates? Yeah, I'm gonna do 2.5 plates. Yeah, no big deal.
So how long did I'm
just doing me.
So how long did it take them to come to you?
Like 2 months.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was in and I was like, I was a part of the crew. And I sure showed that coach too. I was like, yeah, I will shut you up because I know what my limitations are, and just so you know, I completely respect his decisions on why he was, trying to ease me down. Cause I would go there and train ridiculously because I just had something to prove, I suppose. And he was purely just doing his job to make sure that, I never injured myself or anything. So I completely respect where he's coming from. But I still was like,
yeah.
Okay. So you were, doing CrossFit for what, 2 years before you got into the games? Is that right?
Yeah. Well, actually, this is probably an important part of the journey. So what was it? February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Okay. So it was like 7 months of me just like, going to regular classes and stuff like that. And I'd done 1 or 2 team competitions with that comp squad. Is what they called it. And there was this individual competition that was down in Brisbane. So it was like a 6-hour drive and it would be my first individual competition that I'd do. And, I was only doing class workouts at the time, but I realized like, okay, if I'm being an individual here, there's going to probably be a lot more tests that we will be, tested on that aren't in or programmed in a regular class. And that's when I asked Shane to help me with extra programming so that, I just didn't want to come last in this competition. I wanted to represent my gym and absolutely blitz it. So when we got down there, I went through and after the first day, I was like crushing it. And I was like, oh shit, like maybe I have a chance here. So, I got like confidence up a little bit. And at the end of the weekend, I actually won. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, are you shitting me? Like, how did that even happen? Like Shane and I, like no one really cared who we are. They had no idea who we were. And here Shane and I are just having a go.
Yeah.
And I was sitting on top of the podium at the end of it. And after that competition, a weightlifting coach, actually, this is how terrible I was at weightlifting. A weightlifting coach reached out to me and was like, you have terrible technique, but you are really strong for your body weight. And I would love to help coach you and develop your technique so that you could potentially compete at the Olympics. And I was like, I'm fucking in.
Olympics? Olympics? Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah. So that literally, like, the whole journey with like CrossFit, I never actually wanted to compete at the CrossFit Games or anything like that until literally halfway through the Open of 2015. The whole process from 2013 all the way up until 2015 was like training for the Olympics.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us about Shane's support through this process, because he seems he played an integral role.
And how did y'all meet? Like, what was it? Sounds like, did you guys grow up together? So it sounded like even before university, y'all were together.
Oh yeah. So we were together when we were in school. And you know, he was very sporty. I was very sporty. He played like a variety of sports as well. And he has like this whole story about like when he first seen me, blah, blah, blah. Super romantic, but I'll leave that for another day.
We'll get him on and we'll hear it from him.
Yeah. But yeah, basically my parents were pretty strict. So the way we could hang out was if he actually came and joined in on my training sessions. So when my dad was doing shift work and he had night shifts or whatever, Shane would be the one that would be there on the stopwatch. And so he actually started like helping me train since we basically started and we met. And then, you know, we did some long distance at the time. I went to boarding school while he actually went and worked away in the mines. And then, when I decided to leave university, we actually ended up going and moving in together and, you know, kicking off this whole CrossFit journey. And I've just fast forwarded, like at that time, we've been together for almost maybe like 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we've literally been through it all together, which is really special.
That is something.
Right. Yeah. So first of all, 2 things there. That's gold, by the way, because boys now can only hang out with my daughters. I have two daughters when they are training. That is it. Yeah. You can only train together while I'm there.
If you're going to turn my daughter into a CrossFit Games champion, you can hang out with her.
Yeah. But hey, when you said something though, Dad was gone. When Dad was gone, Shane's got game. He's got game.
Shane understands an opportunity when he sees it.
That's right. I could drive her to the pool. I'll hold the stopwatch. Don't worry about this.
Yeah, something tells me Shane had some ulterior motives, maybe, than just holding the stopwatch.
I mean, he was there every day. So
that's so. I mean, and for each other, right? Like mutual support, but like ride or die. I mean, through it all, right?
Yeah.
Through the whole deal, and that's so cool to have someone there. You know, through the journey that you can not only just better you, but then to support you in those dark times and help you make that transition. Like you said, it's like something's got to change because like you said, you can't count on anybody else. Like you've got to take ownership of your own journey. Like that's first and foremost, but like also you can't do it without other people, right? Because the encouragement, the support, all of that. Like, I mean, my wife was for sure my ride or die, like no question. Yeah. Like she was there through the worst, right? Yeah. But okay, so
I would have dumped your ass a long time ago.
Yeah,
for sure,
no doubt. But you know what, Tia, I got to get into the competitive mindset that you've had. I mean, because this started early on. This doesn't just start once you got into the CrossFit Games. Talk to us about that. I mean, where does that come from?
You know, I think. It's a really interesting one because I often think about this and sometimes I think, oh, is it the way mom and dad brought me up? You know, like one thing is they never expected or, you know, said to me that, hey, you know, we expect nothing but winning. Honestly, like I would go into these competitions and I would compete knowing that my mom and dad were proud as long as I put my best foot forward. And they always believed that, you know, my absolute best was the very best. However, they never put that pressure on me. They were always showing their support. They were always, you know, making sure that at the end of the day, I was doing the groundwork and I was the one that was wanting to do it. They never forced me to go and do anything. They just said, hey, if this is what your goal is, this is what you have to do. And it wasn't until actually 2016 that I realized, no. I'm not just going there to participate. I'm going there to win. And sometimes I'm actually a little ashamed to admit it because, you know, in 2015 and in 2016, when I look back on my CrossFit career and I look back on how I performed throughout those years, I didn't go into those competitions being like, yeah, I'm here to freaking win. Like, let's go. I honestly, I was there in 2015. I was there because I was like, holy shit. Like I didn't expect to actually make it to the CrossFit Games. And here I am. I'm living my goal. Cool, like, this is awesome.
That's what's, that's so special. True. That is something. And I think, I'm not going to say you can't have it, but you have to be in those scenarios and you have to, the experience of going in. And I mean, I don't know how you felt early on, but it's like, I can't believe I'm in an NFL stadium. Like, I can't believe that.
Right.
Do I deserve to be here? Do I deserve to be at the CrossFit Games? And it's okay. There's a little bit of motivation there. There's a little bit, right? It's like, oh, I got to prove myself. But when you make that mental, that's right.
I don't want to come last.
It's such a different mentality saying, okay, I don't want to come in last than it is, I'm going to win this thing because I deserve to win this thing. It's totally a different mindset.
It's a different mindset when you say there's no one that's going to eat off my plate.
Yeah.
That's the different mindset. That's when you become the dog and you say, okay, well, there's competition. I didn't come here just to show up.
Yeah.
And this is not a little pretty thing like, oh, we're going to have fun. I'm going to eat your lunch. Yeah. And that's the mentality of greatness. Yeah. And we talk about people that get to that level, the Rich Fronings, the Matt, yourself. How do you get there? Because you get there because you have this mentality of this is mine and I own it. Yeah. And that's not a selfish mentality. No. That's a winner's mentality.
What I love, like when Matt, he was talking about it, he goes, people are asking me and worried about what my training regimen is and what I do this. He goes, man, if you're worried about me, you're not worried about yourself. Like that's time you're taking away from pouring into yourself being the best ever. But I love that you said that. It was like, okay, years, 2015, 16, when you came in second in those games. And then there was a switch in the end of 16, you said, right? It was like, wait, hold on. No. Yeah. I'm going to be on top of that podium and I'm going to win this because I put in the work. And I love the relationship. Right. There's like, it's an inverse relationship. It's like, okay, I've got to put in the work so that I can't lose, right? But then it's also like, I don't want to lose, so I got to put in the work, right? It's like, it's such a crazy dynamic in that. So talk us through 2016 when you had that, like, okay, I'm here, you get second, and then you go into 17.
Yeah, so it comes back to actually having that team around me. So when I finished in 2016, I went into 2016 being like, okay, I just need to prove to the world that it was no fluke. We had athletes like passing out due to heat stroke and everything in 2015. And there was a lot of like media on like whether or not I would have come second had like the athletes been, where they needed to be physically. And I was like, nah, fuck that. Like, I'll tell you guys.
Rookie of the year right here, bitch.
Yeah. And so, like I definitely, I had a job to do when I went into 2016, but there was also a level of like, holy shit. Like in 2015, I didn't know any of my competitors. I was still pretty fresh in the whole CrossFit space. I knew a couple of names, but in my eyes, I was like, who is that? Like, she's doing good. Like, good for her, whatever. And then in 2016, I was like, I'm not here to have friends, but I'm here to just be like, all right, I'm stamping my ground. Like, you guys didn't know who I was last year. Well, you're going to know who I am this year. And I also was going into the Olympics 8 days after the CrossFit Games. So, I was actually trying to create, solidify all my goals in one, essentially.
1 month.
Literally less than 1 month, in 2 weeks. But it was like I finished 2016 and I I absolutely felt like broken because I let down my team. And when I mean my team, I mean Shane and my mom and dad. And, you know, I walked away from that competition thinking like, holy shit, is this what it feels like to be so disappointed that you let down every single person that absolutely put in everything for you? And this is how you repay them? And, you know, like there was moments like after competition, even to this day, that I think about it and I'm like in tears because I just know I didn't do my absolute best. And I literally just gave away that number one spot. And that's no disrespect to the person who came first. You know, like they won, they deserved it. And I was very happy for them. But in terms of my personal performance, like it was just a pathetic performance in my eyes.
So did you go?
We're talking second place, by the way.
Yeah.
Not like 32nd place.
Well, you know what? Second place does feel like,
enough.
it wasn't good enough. So how did you go about the critique? So you had to critique yourself from the mistakes that you felt like you made, that you didn't perform up to the caliber that you wanted to. What were some of those critiques that you went through?
Honestly, I think it came down to the belief in my own ability. You know, like I knew deep down that I could potentially, like, if I wanted to, I could win it, whatever. But it was the willing to actually go that deep, that hard, to actually go that extra mile to make sure that you actually, you know, I was the one standing out on top. And that year, it turned out that I obviously didn't want it that much. And that's what like eats me deep down inside. Because
But did you know?
I did.
But did you know that you were leaving it up? Did you know that you were leaving some on the plate? Like you weren't giving it your all when you were training? Did you feel like that you could have even went that much?
It wasn't in training. It was on the competition floor. I'm talking like, because every time I train with purpose.
Right.
But when it came to that competition floor, I allowed external things to cloud my judgment. I was focusing on the wrong things at the wrong time. And that is what I walked away being disappointed about. And that is what I'm ashamed of to this day. That when I look back on that performance, I think out of like every person, Shane, your mom, your dad, like, you know, everyone that has helped you through this whole period have given their absolute all, and you couldn't for 1 second, for 1 weekend, just lay it all out on the competition floor. It was one freaking ass, Tia, and you let down the team. And from that moment on, I realized that I was never going to be the person to let down the team.
So, and here's where we get to the Tom Brady mentality. And this is what, to me, is so impressive about you. Is 2017, you win your first game. You win by 2 points. It was a close finish. But every year beyond that, the gap got bigger and bigger and bigger. And that to me is like literally the recipe of a GOAT, right? Because how many the girls that won it in 15, different girl won it in 2015 that won it in 2016, right? And then different second place person in 2017, different person, second place person in 18, 19, and 20. All different people, right? So what it says is like, okay, you get there and then you're like, whether you relax or you quit or whatever it is, the mentality changed. And we've talked about it. We've talked about, okay, the details that got you there are the details that you need to focus on to keep you there and to get better. And this is what Tia is so incredible is like, okay, 2017, okay, I get it, I win. It's not a sense of relaxation. Now, okay, hey, pedal to the metal from here. And I'm just going to get better and better. So talk us through that mentality of what it was like to win. Was that win, that celebration, that gratification of winning what you thought it would be, or did that drive you even further in the years to come?
Yeah, I think when I look back on 2017 and I think about the whole experience, actually, I thought, because it was so close, I actually thought I came second again, and I was like, I'm not worthy of number one. And it was a moment for a split second where I thought, wow, you know, like out of everything your family, Shane, has done for you, like you just aren't worthy of this. And I was like, I just need to get off this floor. But then when Dave like pulled us out onto the competition floor and was like, named me as the fittest on earth, there was a sense of relief of like, oh shit, like, no, I am worthy. Like, I've done it. Like, Shane and I, like, I've given back to the team, and we won. And I never look at my wins as just mine. I always think it's our wins, you know, because like I said before, you know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And there was just such a relief of, okay, I am worthy of it. And there was that moment that I was like, all right, well, we're not just here and we haven't worked this hard to just get here and be complacent and, you know, be content with this. We're going to go and back it up again. And every year, like I actually look back on my 27, my 20, even my 2018 years, I'm like, oh man, that was atrocious performance in my eyes.
And you won by 200 plus points.
I just know that I can do better. I know I can be better. And I think it's going from good. I was good in 2015, 2016. And then I transformed into being great in 2017, 2018, into becoming unstoppable in 2019, 2020, 21, you know, whatever the future holds. Like, I'm just going to continue to be relentless in everything that I do. And no one's going to touch me. And that's just something that I have committed to myself. And if I have the right team around me that are willing to put in the work with me, then our future is endless.
Well, talk to us about the dynamics of surrounding yourself with the team and what those roles are as far as, you know, you building this team and moving forward and them holding you accountable and you holding them accountable as well. What does that look like?
So for me, it's about people that are on the same wavelength. You know, they take extreme ownership of the stuff that's happening on in their life.
Great phrase.
They're, you know, they're willing to put in the work, because every single individual that's a part of the team has a particular job, you know. And don't get me wrong, there's people that have come and gone throughout the journey, and you know, I've learned a lot from those experiences. But I'm not here just to become complacent and have tag-alongs. I'm here because I have a job to do. And, you know, if you want to be a part of that journey, awesome. As long as you know, put in the work with us, you have an objective, let's fucking go. Let's take over the world. And honestly, for the first time, I'm very particular about what I share and who I share my training, my whole, I guess, network. I'm very particular about it. And this year is actually going to be the first year that I've actually opened it up to a direct competitor of mine, Brooke Wells, as well as a couple of others. You know, in the past, in 2018, I've had James Newberry train with us and live with us. So I opened it up to him, but he was a close friend. Obviously, Matt Fraser has been training with Shane and I over the last 2 years, and we opened our arms up to him, and he was a part of the team. And now it's, you know, I actually had a conversation with them just before the season started. And I said, look, guys, you know, if we're really going to do this, we're going to do it together. After this conversation, I want you guys to walk away. I want you guys to have a really deep think about whether or not this is something you want to do. But I can guarantee you, if you commit to this team, even though we're all individual athletes, no one's going to fucking quit on us. You know, we're all in it together once you've committed. And we're in it together for the rest of the season. And there is nothing fucking going to break us down, because the more we're together, the more we're pushing us, the stronger we're going to be. And, you know, now we have our proven team, which is Brooke Wells, myself. We have Will Morad, Street Horner, Alex Smith, and James Newberry. He's coming back on. And, you know, Shane is, you know, for the first time ever, we're actually, you know, really developing a bit of a crew to train and just take over the world, essentially.
That's awesome. So I want to, you go.
Well, I'm verbalizing this for the first time, so it may not sound poetic or really well worded.
He writes a lot of poetry, by the way. So
I do.
Oh, I like it.
No, I don't. But I want to explore something with you and maybe ask your advice on this, on what you just said about having the team around you. My biggest frustration right now where I sit today is when people don't match my intensity. I get crazy obsessed with things that I'm after. And we're
just going to take off.
I'm verbalizing what's going through my head.
Like, I get it.
Like it's so frustrating when you want something so bad and you know you can't get there alone. And this isn't about you guys. So
this is
relax,
directly about us.
Maybe it is about you guys.
100%. Tia, just go ahead and take a seat. Tia, take a seat.
We're gonna have a little we're gonna have a little relationship issue here that George's gonna work through, and you can witness it.
And again, that's why I want to talk this out, because I think in some ways it's irrational maybe of me to think this way, but it's just so frustrating when people don't match your intensity, when it's something you're after so bad that nobody else, it seems like, and that's what we were talking about earlier, nobody's going to fulfill that expectation. Mm-hmm. So how do you handle that? Encourage me here. How do you handle people letting you down and not matching your intensity?
My secret weapon is Shane Orr. He's definitely my rock. But as corny as that sounds, he really is that person that, he's a shoulder that, he's someone I can rely on, but he's also a shoulder that I can fall on, that, hey, like how can I freaking process this? Like, this is very frustrating, and what's the best way to go about it? Because obviously there's a lot of emotions and anger in some situations, and he's the one with the level head. He's the one like, okay, like, let's cool it down, like, let's sleep on it. But I think that it comes back to, it's actually a couple of things. What I was saying at the very beginning of this conversation, it's like, hey guys, like you can have people around you and they're just going to take. And, they're taking advantage. Mm-hmm. Fine. But as long as you know, and you take that extreme ownership on yourself, that you're the one that's going to put in the work, they can't technically, affect you, because you're not going to allow it. You're that strong mentally and physically that you're not going to allow them to seep in and take energy from you. And, obviously you want to extract yourself from situations like that, where you're surrounding yourself with people that are bringing you down, that aren't at your intensity level. And it's going to suck sometimes, because you're like, man, I've just developed this relationship and I like them as a friend, but they're bringing me down in my performance and what I'm wanting to do. And like, I mean, I had to go through it with the bobsled team. I was mentally going through, like, why are they not on the same page as me? They're saying that they have these goals, but they're not doing what I'm doing. Like, what's going on? And it's okay. It's just, maybe they're just not educated, or maybe they just don't know. And, Shane had to help me understand that, what I mean? And like, when I think about like what I've done with people that may not be on the same page as me, that's why it was crucial before we started and kicked off this season that our group of athletes on the proven team, they knew what my expectations were. And once they committed, they knew what they were committing themselves to. And I think for me, that's one of the things that it was so important that I had to express to them how serious this is, that they can't turn around to me when it fucking hurts and they're in so much pain and it's so hard and we're in the trenches in a couple of months' time and tell me, oh, Tia, we just weren't expecting this. I'll be like, I told you, motherfucker. Yeah. And you agreed to me.
So that is absolute gold.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, by the way.
But you might have single-handedly dismantled the Darren Woodson show.
It's over. We're done. Because he's going to use that same language at us when we're off.
Hey, guys, here's the expectations.
Yeah. No, but what you said is perfect, because, there was so much you said was perfect. But the emotional side says, well, why can't they freaking match my intensity? What's wrong with them? They don't have the priorities that I do. What's wrong? No, take a step back. People are busy.
Yeah.
People have their own things in life. Like, it's okay. And what I love that you said, I can't let that drop my performance the way that other people, it's still on me how I perform.
That's right.
It's not anybody else's fault. So I've got to, so keep on with that intensity, keep that level, because ultimately it's up to me. So I love that. Thank you so much for that.
It's also something, sorry if we want to move on, but something Shane said to me, he goes, like, it's easy. So, obviously there's that saying that goes around where you want to surround yourself with you are who you surround yourself with, essentially. And, if you're surrounding yourself with 5 wealthy, overachieving people, like, you're in that atmosphere. So it's easy to, like, step up to that level. But, like, let's actually take a step back here and realize, like, okay, imagine if you weren't in that kind of environment and you actually wanted to really, like, develop yourself, and the adversity that you felt or the challenges that you came across, how much that would actually develop you as an individual if you had to really take that next step of being that leader and showing the 5 people around you that aren't striving to be better, just how much you're developing yourself. You can look at it any which way you want, but it's like, look, if you're not surrounded by people that are going to be, like, striving for the absolute best, okay, it does suck, but take that extreme ownership and actually show those people how important it is to actually be better. Yeah. And then you do want to be surrounding yourself with people that are constantly, evolving and everything like that. But some people don't have that ability, Right. Sometimes you are caught in a situation for a couple of months before you can actually move on. And so it's like, okay, take that challenge and be like, let's fucking go. I'm going to show I'm going to improve these 5 people's lives by leading by example.
Right. And that leadership has to be discipline, just straight discipline for self. And I totally get where you're coming from there.
So talk us through that transition to bobsledding. You've mentioned it a couple times now. What was the reasoning and the decision behind that?
Well, I didn't know if CrossFit was going to be a thing in the new season. So it was like just over 20 months ago, one of the pilots actually reached out. And at the time I was like, I really just don't know if that's going to work well for me. It's a really great opportunity, but, I don't know what's actually involved. And one thing for me is if I'm committed 100%. I'm not just going to come in and take, like, the awesome things and do it half-heartedly. Like, once I say I'm in, and like, let's freaking go. So, I wanted to make sure I'm fair on the team as well, that they're going to get my absolute best. And then once, CrossFit, a lot of things happened last year. Obviously COVID happened and everything like that. I wasn't too sure where the sport was really going. And so I reached back out to them and was like, hey, like, what does the season look like? What's entailed? Like, let's have a bit of a plan so I know what's going on. And they're like, look, because of COVID, we're going to actually do a training camp in Korea. And it's only going to be for a couple of months. It looks like it's going to be in the off season for CrossFit. So I think that this could be a potential opportunity for you to come and meet the team and get a bit of a grasp of what's really required. And so Shane and I were like, yep, we're in, let's go. We booked our flights. We, went and got our visa and everything sorted. And we went and spent 2 months over in South Korea training with the Australian bobsled team. And I was training and learning how to be a brakeman for the Australian bobsled team.
Wait a minute. Explain what a brakeman is.
And a pilot.
And why you would want to go down an ice tube at 90 million miles an hour.
Oh my God, it's so exhilarating. We're going like 85 miles an hour. It's awesome. And you have to have a lot of trust. So basically for a female, so they have 2 races. One is a 2-man bobsled, which it has your pilot, who is your steerer. And then you have your brakeman, who is the power behind the sled and also the person that pulls the sled and stops it at the very end of the race.
That surprises me that they would put you in the power position, though. I'd assume you'd just be along for the ride, just steering, just casually just being there.
I I mean, I did get an opportunity to jump in that pilot seat, and holy shit, like that was epic.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I don't want to see. I just want to put my head down.
Step aside.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, and then you also have a mono bob race, which is just the pilot, and they will push, they'll drive, and they'll brake themselves. And that's actually a requirement to actually qualify for the Olympics. Because the Olympics is next February in 2022, I don't have the ability to, do the required hours and everything as a pilot. So really my only option is to just be a brakeman. But I mean, for me, it's like an incredible experience. And so I basically from there learned how to do the push. So there's a specific technique to actually like hit. And you run on the ice with like these ice spikes. So they're like really, really sharp. Nothing like a track spike. They're like these really sharp spikes that will dig into the ice and allow you to actually have like some solid surface and grip on the ice. And you'll pretty much drive, you'll sprint for about it depends on the track, but 15 meters to about 30 meters. And basically like that is the crux, and that is like the most important part of the race, because obviously the more powerful, the more speed you have, and the better velocity you have for your race. And then my pilot, as soon as I jump into the sled, it is up to my pilot to get us down safely. So I have no control over the sled, and it's a very high chance of actually crashing. But I've made peace with that, and I understand what I'm getting myself into and accept anything that comes. But I literally just jump in, put my head down between my legs, and just wait until I feel the end. I can't see anything. I can actually open my eyes and I'll see like the track through the brake, but I literally have no control over what happens. It's just all faith in my pilot and getting us down.
That is a lot
So
of
dumb
faith.
question, but how do you know when to pull the brakes? Does your pilot say, "Hey, let's go"?
No, so
Hey, Tia, wake up.
do. Yeah, pretty much.
Open your eyes.
Some pilots do. But I actually had to memorize the track, so I have to like go off feel, and like I'll know, and I'll count the turns every time that we go around. And, obviously like the more you do the track, the better you get at it. And it's like not as stressful, but like the first couple, you're like, oh shit, I don't know if we're done. Like, because if I put my head up, one, I'm slowing the race down, but also, the G forces that are like smashing in the back of my neck it's pretty severe.
Jeez. So I'm thinking through now, like this is real life cool runnings right now, right?
Darren,
Like,
what do you think about that?
this track, this
I'm
track
holding my own
athlete.
hands. My legs are crossing over my own hands.
There's like brothers
Hold
don't
me.
go down ice.
No, we don't go down ice like that.
Sorry, we're trying to have a conversation with our guest here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We were just
She
talking-
lost me.
We were just
You start talking about negative temperatures.
Oh, negative
I'm out.
temperatures, cold, I can't see. No, not happening.
but we were just talking about how realistic Cool Runnings is. The movie Cool Runnings.
Oh, yeah.
Feel the rhythm, feel the flow.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway.
so you've actually had some success. You just recently, or you won your first race that you guys actually
Yes.
won? That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what is
Yeah,
that
it
that
was
feeling of
very cool.
victory compared to CrossFit Games?
So everything that I've been talking about today has been, it's all been about, just purely taking that ownership, and also taking everything and putting it into my own control. And the thing with bobsled, which is one of the things that actually makes me enjoy it a lot more, is I actually have to, for the first time in my life, trust in my pilot to not just get me down safely, but to actually execute the race. So essentially, and the way I kind of have looked at it is, you look at a coach, right? And if the athlete of that coach performs poorly, it's the coach's fault. But if the athlete performs incredible, it's because the athlete did all the work.
Wow.
And how I look at that is, it sucks to be the coach, because they're going to get criticized if their athlete doesn't perform, but they'll get no credit when their athlete does perform. And essentially it's the exact same thing as the bobsled. So if the brakeman doesn't perform and they have a slow race down the track, it's on the brakeman. It's all the brakeman's fault because she didn't hit hard enough. But if they have a really good hit and they have a really good run, it's all the pilot's. It's because of the pilot. She did a good run. You know, she executed that race to the best of her abilities, and she gets all the credit. And I don't mind. I like that. I don't normally, obviously, being in the athlete position where it's like, you know, I get a lot of the credit when it comes down to what Shane and I have done over our career. But I'm okay with that, because the way I look at it is like, you know, as long as I'm doing my job right, I'm going to set my pilot up for the absolute best possibility.
That's a great mindset to have.
Well, it's the only mindset that you can have in order to be successful. Yeah. And, you know, I'm going to be fulfilling my dreams and my goals as if I'm setting up my pilot to the absolute best for her. And so, you know, I think you need to take that ego, you need to take that selfishness out, and you need to really rely on your team. And I mean, you guys are the masters of this, right? Like, you have to rely on your teammates to help you achieve your goal. And I think that's what a lot of people forget when it comes to teams. They're like, oh, it's always fun. It's always, you know, a breeze to be a team player on a professional team. Well, it's not, because you have a lot of external things that are out of your control that only you can kind of try and help. Essentially, you know what I mean?
But that mindset. Let's think about it. Like, let's take another athlete. Let's take another great athlete, a Floyd Mayweather, who's done an individual sport his entire life. Do you think Floyd Mayweather would join you know what I mean?
That's what I was just going to say. It's amazing the dynamic of, you've gone for the last however many years of your life in such an individual, quote unquote, individual sport, and taken the credit. And now you've got to sacrifice. That's such a huge life
literally
lesson.
and metaphorically take a back seat.
Yeah, take a back seat.
Yeah.
That's an amazing life lesson right there.
Yeah. Our objective, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, our objective is to qualify for the Olympics. But day one, my team knew that I wasn't there just to make the Olympics. It's getting to the Olympics is a part of the process. It's actually now performing and, you know, being a competitor at the Olympics. You know, we want to, Australia has a bobsled team. Like, who even knew, right? It is exactly like the Jamaican bobsled team. But that doesn't mean that we're freaking going to just come in like last place. That means that we're going to, you know, we're going to compete against Canada, the US, Germany, and we're going to make them like, they're going to have to be at their absolute best to beat us.
You're going to make them your.
You said it nicely.
Okay, so we're gonna speak that into existence. You're gonna do well at the Olympics. How about CrossFit? What's the future of CrossFit look like for you? And then what about family? What does that look like going into the future?
Yeah. So the 2021 CrossFit Games, if everything with the pandemic and everything, you know, goes to plan and it happens on the last week of July, first week of August, obviously the objective and the plan is to be on top of that podium. But this year I also want Brooke Wells to be number 2. And, you know, I want us to be a force to be reckoned with. You know, I want us to go in there and stamp our ground and our authority, and know our competitors will know that, you know, we mean business. And then in terms of family, you know, like Shane and I, we've been together for such a long time. And we definitely want to have a family one day. But I don't think that right now is suitable, you know, especially with having the CrossFit Games around the corner and then the Olympics as well in February. That's as far as I've really been looking. I think it's important for an athlete to not get overwhelmed and too consumed of what can happen in the future rather than just be present. And I think that it's important that we just take one goal at a time. So the next objective is the CrossFit Games. Once that's done, it's basically bobsled training, tick off the Olympics, and then we'll have to reassess and go from there.
Now, we're a little upset at Matt because we had him on the podcast and he didn't tell us he was retiring. I mean, and he made that decision like 3 weeks later. So if we find out in 3 weeks that 2021 is your last season, we're going to be upset.
Yeah, and then
you didn't break the news here.
And then officially no more CrossFitters because apparently we would then be bad luck. If you come on the Darren Woodson show, then you retire.
And we only speak to champions, let's be honest.
That is true.
That's amazing. No. I can reassure you guys that you won't be getting an announcement in 3 weeks' time.
Awesome. Okay, so one last thing, and we appreciate so much the time that you spent with us. This has been an incredible conversation. But I want to go back to the mindset that you had, and it kind of hit me because I think so many people feel this, and then they can watch you on TV and think, oh my gosh, she's got it figured out. She's just super talented. Like she was just made to be there, and I don't have a chance, and I'm not worthy. But you had those same thoughts in your head after second place. Like, I'm not worthy of this, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not this. I mean, you, for crying out loud, got second place at the CrossFit Games, the second fittest person on the planet, and you're still having those thoughts. But talk through, to those listening out there that are doubting themselves, that don't think that they're worthy, that don't think you've had those thoughts as well. And talk through, okay, how do I take those and make something positive out of it and not let it consume me and stop me from achieving my goals? Because you reacted in a way that brought positive results, as opposed to, I think so many people will say, I'm just not good enough, and then they quit and they stop. So talk us through how to use that and turn it to a positive.
I think, there's a lot of different motivations throughout my whole career that I've utilized, one being those negative comments, those keyboard warriors, that don't think that I have what it takes. And it's like, okay, I'll fucking show you.
Darren's one of them.
The haters. The haters.
Yeah. You want to turn something that like who is that person and who are they to tell me that I can't achieve something? So taking that kind of approach and turning it and flipping it to use as motivation and something as a good form of motivation can really fire you up. But I also think you have to ask yourself is, why do you want to do this? I constantly ask myself, like, what is my purpose? Like, what do I want my legacy to be? And, what is important to me? And for me personally, every year it's changed. It's evolved. When I very first started, I was like, yeah, I wanted to go to the Olympics because when I was a little girl, I thought that was such a cool accomplishment. And when I have my kids later in life, I want to tell them the stories of, how mum went to the Olympics one day and represented Australia. And then the next year, it was a different why, but it was similar. It was more so for Shane and for my family and for the people that have sacrificed so much for me to be where I am. And every year it changes, it evolves, there's something different, but I always have to ask myself before the start of the season is, why do I want to do this? It helps with my determination. It helps with my desire, and it helps with me when it comes to those really tough days and, the days that I don't want to, go and do a hard session at the gym. I'll think back to, no, I need to do this in order to be successful at this so that I can achieve this, and it's going to pay off in the end. And I think that it's really important for you to have those internal conversations with yourself, whether you write them down, whether you talk to someone really important to you, that you actually ask yourself that. Because if you didn't, and you didn't have that, when it does come to those hard days and those tough moments in your life, those defining moments in your life, you don't have that fire, or you don't have that willpower to just keep going. You just, okay, well, I don't have anything important enough to fight for, so why am I even doing this? And, it's, for me, it's become this whole thing about why just be great? Why settle at great when you can become unstoppable?
I mean, should we just shut it off?
That's
right
it.
there?
Yeah, I'm gonna replay that.
You get your one question.
I'm
That's
gonna
it.
replay that over and over.
Yeah.
After this.
Yeah. That was, man.
Well, Tia, thank you so much for the time you've taken. Ben's gonna hit you with our last banger here, and we just want you to like understand how appreciative we are and how much of a fan we are of you, and honestly,
Thank
just
you.
biggest cheerleader as you go to the games this year and the Olympics. We're gonna be watching and rooting you on, and we'll have to meet up in St. Louis at First Form and.
Yeah.
We'll watch you work out while we just. I'm too
No,
nervous. I'm too nervous.
jumping in there. I'm jumping in there.
I know, 'cause
Me
you're
and you,
way
we're doing
jumping in.
Fran.
Yeah,
Me
you
and
know
you.
what?
Because he let everybody know, right? He's way more motivated than the other two of us. So
See, we are full of shit. There's no one going to join you in those workouts. We will watch.
I'm too nervous to move those
No.
weights because if I don't set those weights back up right,
Uncle Andy's gonna come slap that hand.
Give us
I
a.
100% want to get these guys in a workout, and Sal and Andy, because every time I've been there, they've just gone and done their bicep curls. And I'm like,
they're curls and walk. They're curls and walk.
Hey, AMRAP curls and bench press. That's
And
the
calves
workout.
for Sal. Calves. Yeah.
All right,
I mean, Shane's 100% for the whole bicep curls.
I love
but
it.
for me,
Yeah.
no, that really would be a riot though. Us three, Andy, Sal, and you, Tia, in a workout. That would be pretty hilarious.
Tia, for sure, the last one standing. The rest of us just scattered all over the floor.
All right, last question. And I want to echo Tyler and Darren and so much we appreciate your time. You didn't have to do this, obviously. And people don't always live up to what you play in your head that they're going to be, and you have far exceeded. Yes. You didn't either. You disappointed us. No, I'm just kidding. No, but you are above and beyond everything we expected, so thank you so much. But last question. As you look back, as 2021 version of Tia looks back on her life, and you can go back and you could tell yourself one thing, where do you go and what do you tell yourself?
I think I would tell myself is just stay true to yourself. Stay true to your values. Always remember to never forget where you came from. And if you can go to bed knowing that throughout the day, throughout your training, throughout who you interacted with, you stay true to who you are as a person. You put your absolute best for that particular day out there, then nothing can go wrong. And I think that, you can go to bed having that confidence that you were kind and genuine to the people that you interacted with, and you left people making them feel good and making them feel like they were important, because everyone has interactions with so many different people throughout the day, and it's easy to get caught up in what's going on in your own world, whereas they may have like a bad day or whatever. But if you can stay true to your values, and for me, I think it's very important that every interaction that I have with someone, they always have a good interaction, even if that means that I'm just having a terrible day. Then I know that I'm being a good person, and that's it's only going to turn over and make that day better for you as well.
Sure.
And I think that if I can leave the gym knowing that I did my absolute best in training that day, I got that much better, then I'm going to be satisfied with who I am and what I've done. And you can't ask for more. So be kind, stay true to your values, and just keep putting in the work.
Hey, you know what I love about that answer is that question is about you, and you turned it into other people. That just shows your heart and your love for people. That's awesome.
For a moment there, I was like, Tia, you're rambling. Oh
No.
my
That was perfect. That was perfect.
Not are you the fittest person on earth, but your mental toughness, like it just speaks so loudly.
Yeah, we ain't shit, boys.
Yeah, I know, but it speaks to our listeners.
First time Ben's cussed on this show, by the way. In a year.
Thanks, Tia.
You brought it out of me.
You brought it out of me.
It's the Australian in me.
But I want to say this because there's this episode and this interview today, it speaks so loudly to everyone, not just young ladies, myself, everyone. It speaks to everyone about not just the physical side of it, but the mental toughness to overcome and to get yourself in a position to where you don't take no bullshit from anyone, and you put it on extreme ownership on you to get the job done. And Tia-Clair, Toomey, we appreciate you today. I mean, really do. We appreciate the lesson today.
It was an honor to be a part of your show, and thank you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
We'll talk soon. Hopefully see you in person soon.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.